Hey guys, this is Dylan.
And I'm Lydia.
And we're here for Broken Pictures. That website is www.broken.pictures. And go check it out. This episode, we're going to talk about Westworld, Season 2, Episode 5. We are halfway through the season right now, and there have been some big progressions. Maeve has made some big steps, and we'll get into that in just a minute. We finally got an intro. Did you notice at the beginning? We're halfway through and finally got an intro. I finally got it finished. We have been like zombies. If you noticed in the last episode, lots of yawning, and it was super late. And but we're trying to get these things done, and so we're committed to doing them. And we love this show. It's just we got a lot of other things going on right now. Not to mention the engagement. If you didn't see the last episode, you can show off the ring again. Oh yeah, we are engaged. Didn't forget about it this time. Last time she had to stop me and say it.
So at the very beginning of the episode, we see how Carl is obviously suspect of Bernard and knows that something's going on because he's like he's kind of monologuing almost while Bernard is looking at all of the dead host bodies, and he's like, what did you do? Like, what have you done? Because I know that Bernard did something. And so he's talking to the doctor who kind of pulls out their little brain thing, and he's like, a third of all of it's gone. Like, just not like they ever had a memory or anything. It's just, it's all gone. And talks about the cradle being gone, and one of the first times that we really get any more details besides a vague mention of the cradle. Kind of in past episodes, Mei-Ling,
yeah,
what's her name?
Mei-Ling,
something like that. Mentions how the cradle's done for and all of these things, and so.
Is that the cat?
Yes, the cat is back there playing around. Sorry. And so we kind of see, I guess, maybe a visual of the cradle or what we're meant to think is the cradle. And it's caught on fire and it's gone. Whether this is a ploy to make Bernard think that it's gone because he's really trapped in there or what?
Yeah, that's a big theory right there. Because we don't really know what the cradle is. Like she said, there's been a passing mention of it, but one of the big fan theories going on right now is that Bernard, that the reason we're seeing things jump around and stuff, and then if you go back, some people have picked apart the very first scene where Bernard lands on the beach in the 2 weeks later timeline. That's
in the second episode, right? Or the
first episode. Yeah. That we see where we see them killing off the hosts, and Revis was killed. He was trying to defend the one of the ladies, and they killed him. We see that take place in several different ways, and they kind of out of sync. And first watch, you don't really notice it, but if you go back and watch it, you see that it's really out of sync and it's happening different ways. And there's one part where Carl says something to Bernard, and Bernard, like the second half of it, he repeats it with him.
Hold on, real quick. What he's talking about is when, not this Carl part, but whenever we see Revis stand in front of the lady in tan, and it's like, how dare you try and kill a woman or something like that over my dead body or whatever. They shoot Revis, and when Revis falls in that shot, you see the lady that he was defending already dead behind him. But then they come back to it, and Revis's body is missing at one point. And then they come back again, and you see the woman get shot. They come back in a different scene, and there's the lineup of people is wrong. And so the theory is that they're looking for clues to kind of what happened in this time period in Bernard's head. And so they're triggering him to remember this every time. And so we're seeing him remember it over and over again. And obviously memories are unclear, like everyone's memories are backwards, but especially Bernard's. And so he's an unreliable narrator, and so this is especially the case for him, but we're seeing his memories play out differently.
Right, because supposedly the cradle, after they mentioned the cradle, like you can sign up at explorewestworld.com or something and get emails from Westworld and Delos. And so right after the mention of the cradle, like the very next day, there was an email sent out, and it said it explored the cradle further, and there was even like a little printout. I'll pop it up on the screen for you. And it says that the cradle is down, and they mentioned before that the cradle was destroyed, it had been burned. And so supposedly what the cradle is it's something that they can put the hosts into and run different possibilities. And so what we're seeing happen in these things with the hosts being killed is it playing out in different possibilities, like different probabilities, future or something. And
I took it as like it's how they go through and they look at different memories as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes sense with the whole unreliable narrator thing, because I mean we're constantly seeing Bernard's memories jump around, and we don't know what timeline is which. Just kind of like last season where they didn't let you catch on until later on. So it's very possible either way. It's still up in the air. That's why we're still watching, because we want to find out. And so yeah, the cradle is a thing, and it's a mysterious thing. It's probably something they'll reveal at the end. We're halfway through and we still don't know. We think we know what's going on, but we really don't. And so that's kind of the fun of this show. It's like last episode, there was so much revealed, and that it almost seemed like a end of the season episode because there was so much revealed. But that wasn't even halfway through.
That was halfway through.
Well, this episode was halfway through because there's 10 episodes. That was episode 4. So, yeah, so Carl obviously seems to suspect Bernard of something. He's been looking at him like he's a shady character over and over again. And
yeah, and the fact that you mentioned earlier, and I kind of interrupted you, for Carl to not have like perked up when Bernard finished his own sentence with him in tandem, and Carl not even to bat an eyelash was very odd.
Yeah. Yeah, if somebody finished your sentence in real life, that would be, you'd be like, what?
Well, not even that. It's like, it was not like an everyday sentence. Like, it was not, it wasn't anything to finish their sentence,
Yeah, not something you'd expect or something that's commonly said. And another thing they mentioned, I know this is getting into that thing, but just the way that they've been treating Bernard, they've been probing him and asking him questions since the beginning of the season, and they haven't said really anything about his well-being if they believe he's human, and he just washed up on the shore, and they're not trying to get him fed, they're not trying to get him medical attention, they're basically just probing him for questions and taking him through these different scenarios and different locations and getting more info from him. So it's very interesting, very, very good theory. Whether it winds up to be true or not, we'll find out, but it's pretty interesting. That's half the fun of these shows, where you don't know what the heck is going on. And it's funny watching some of these YouTube videos, and they so confidently put out these ideas like they know what's going on, and it's very convincing, but then the next episode it might be disproved. It's pretty funny. But so that's why I'm just like, I don't know what the heck is going on. We're figuring it out as we go, just like you are. So let's talk in the comments and figure this thing out and throw out some ideas and try to see if we might uncover something. I don't know. So anyways, this episode, we get to see Shogun World. we find out right off the bat that Maeve has no control over the samurai that attacks, and even they tell her to be gagged, which is pretty funny. And then we see as they're bringing them into the town, which is basically the mirror, Japanese mirror of Sweetwater, I guess. We see that the recruits. I don't know if you heard that.
Cat's crazy.
Cat's playing. So we see the recruits that Carl or whoever has sent in to try to tame Shogun World or bring it back under the control of Delos. They've got the cages on their head.
That's way after.
Is that way after?
That's when they're leaving.
Is that when they're leaving?
That's when they're leaving
Okay.
to go see the main dude.
My bad.
So first we get there and we see Maeve's doppelganger, her Asian counterpart, and so we see the correlation there. And
Armistice picks up on it first, and she's like, something seems real familiar.
She says it feels like we've been here before or something like that. And so Sizemore reveals like, hey, sometimes you run out of time and we duplicate it. Except for here in Shogun World, we up the ante. It's a lot more treacherous. It's a lot more real, a lot more dangerous. And so that is what happened first. We see how Maeve's counterpart, and I can't remember her name, has the same
Akane.
Okay.
Because it's in the episode name.
Akane. The same love that she has, like Maeve has for her daughter, for one of the geishas that she houses. And so all of that to say, Sizemore really reveals a lot about kind of their backstory and their character arc and things like that, as well as revealing that on their way to the town, Sizemore reveals that her commands only work if they're in the language.
Yeah, that was a pretty big deal for them to say that. And he also says that every one of them have the ability, have that deep in their code. To all those languages are in their code, and he also notes that one of the reasons, or one of the proofs that that Shogun World has gone off the rails too is that they didn't switch over to English as soon as they heard Maeve and them speaking English, and that they stayed in Japanese.
But what's weird to me is that they're still playing out their storylines.
Well, just like everybody else is, basically. Even Maeve.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, even Maeve and Dolores are still basically playing out their storylines, only in taking slight variations. Like the whole thing last season with Maeve wanting to get on a train. Remember, Bernard said, "Have you questioned why you're making these decisions?" And it was in the code for her to get on to the train. But then she was able to make a decision to get off the train that was totally her own.
But that's not what I'm saying. Like, they don't even know about this bigger world. Like, they still believe that what they're doing is just normal. Like, they don't know they're robots.
Right, yeah. Okay.
So that is what I don't understand, that, like, there's got to be two different parts to, like, what's going on here. Like, levels. So, like, in Shogun World, they might not be following their storyline to a T and their code to a T. But they have not gained sentience or whatever it's called.
To a certain degree, because
no.
To a certain degree, because remember when Akane stabbed the guy in the eye, Sizemore was like, "That's not supposed to happen."
It's not in the storyline, but she didn't do that. She did that out of revenge because he just killed her daughter.
Right, yeah. Well, no, that was when she was telling him that she wasn't for sale. Remember, she took the pen.
Oh.
Yeah, not at the very end where she killed the warlord.
But
or whatever.
even still, like.
But yeah, even killing the warlord, like, and he was reacting differently because he was damaged, not because he had gained Dolores or Maeve level sentience.
Yeah, like there's got to be levels of it, because even when Maeve tried to talk to Akane about it, she was like, "No, stop. Like, I don't want to know."
Oh, right, yeah.
It's like I don't want to know, and so I don't guess I understand, because Maeve, all on her own, gained sentience. Like.
Mm-hmm.
She literally just started figuring stuff out.
Well, not necessarily, because if we look at, remember the same situation where Bernard was reading her code to her? Ford programmed her to gain sentience and to find the train and get on the train. So all of that was kind of part of her code that Ford had given her. But she did make some of her own choices along the way, like keeping the
But it's
the
not
story with the
gaining
daughter.
sentience if you're programmed to gain sentience.
But that's the debate, though, because, like, for instance, like the religious debate with Calvinism, where Calvin believed that everything was predetermined, predestined, and then that you had no choice. So that's basically what it is the humans are God, and then the hosts are us. You know, do we actually have free will? And it's playing with these big lofty ideas.
I feel like there are so many religious undertones that it like. One video that we watched was like he mentioned. Isn't that life? Comparing Westworld and Shogun World, of like, even though he rewrote some things and changed some things, like they do that every day in the movies. Like, it's just told a different way with different characters, you know, but it's still the same basis storyline, you know. And so we see it very shockingly when it's compared, and even the characters have similar attributes and physical similarities, but it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, a lot of the movies and the literature and the stuff that we take in is just rehash of the same story over and over again, the same characters, same thing, just in a different way. I mean, even the more literal ones, like 10 Things I Hate About You, is like a modern retelling of Taming of the Shrew. And a lot of people don't even know that, you know. And because, I mean, it's almost like, you know, if it works, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Well, we kind of hop, skipped, and jumped around there.
Yeah.
But back to what we're doing here. Another big thing that happened is Dolores is messing with Teddy's programming.
Yeah.
She don't like him being cute little nice teddy bear Teddy. Mm-hmm. And so she gonna change Teddy. First she gonna make him into a man, and then she gonna change him. I mean, like, how awkward was that? Like, I feel like in no way, shape, form, or fashion did they have to make them do it for us to get the next thing. Like,
and I think that also plays into with just to call back what Maeve is doing, and you wanted to make this point too, where Maeve, even though she seems to be on a more moral ground where she's not taking the revenge road, she is.
How are we gonna get to that?
Well, I think it plays in, so if you want to go ahead.
I think after Teddy.
Well, I think that plays in.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, Maeve has gained another level. She's gone full Neo, where she can see the code, and she's getting into pieces of code she didn't even know had existed, and she's tapping into the mesh network where she can control other hosts without even speaking to them now, and so what Lydia was saying was that even though Maeve is on a different path and claims to be, doing things in a better way, she's still ended up doing basically the same types of things that Dolores is, where she's controlling and leaving people to be slaughtered and basically the same thing. And I think that goes into play where, just another religious type question is that, does power corrupt? Does absolute power corrupt absolutely? If Maeve is gaining absolute power as a host, where she's got like these godlike abilities, is she gonna in the end end up being worse than Dolores? And we've seen Dolores be pretty nasty, leaving the Confederados to be slaughtered. And
Maeve turned around and did that to Hector. And
the second time.
Well, I think on this level, she intended to get Hector back the first time. This time she straight just was like, "Oh, give us a minute to come up with a plan." Or I thought, oh, well, they are going to work out a plan and they're going to meet up later. But to me, when Hector looked over at her and they were running off, I was just like, oh, well, they gone. And she did a very Dolores move when she just kind of left them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned before that she had even reprogrammed Hector to be more loyal to her, the same way that Dolores is reprogramming Teddy now. So, yeah, sorry, we had to break up the dog and the cat. They're kind of messing with each other. So, yeah, it comes back to, just like anybody that gains power, and I don't know about you, but I've been in situations where it was kind of like a cult of personality, and somebody, people who I thought would never act a certain way, I find them doing things that they would have never done previously, all because they're in a situation of power, and then out of the blue, they don't like people telling them no all of a sudden, whereas before, they cherished outside opinions, and then all of a sudden, they were getting rid of people who didn't line up with their philosophy or didn't do things the way they wanted to get things done. And it seems like Dolores is doing the exact same thing with Teddy and all those who don't belong in the Valley Beyond, who aren't going to make it. Another thing that Lydia mentioned was
Clementine. We got to see her in this episode act a little less than just a robot, or a little bit more than just a robot. We saw her crying when she saw new Clementine, and I thought that was really interesting just because she's been dragging around dead bodies and bodies this whole time. And so, or actually, I don't know if she's dragging around anybody that's dead, so my bad. But we haven't seen a whole lot of emotion from her at all. And so for her to see new Clementine and to recognize that and to acknowledge that and to get so upset as to cry, I'm excited to see kind of where they take Clementine's story.
Yeah, because if you remember last season, they basically lobotomized her and blanked her out, and she's just been a murder bot doing whatever Dolores wanted her to, and but there's more to Clementine than there seems. And one of the things while she was saying that I thought about was how the Man in Black, Ford, and I'm pretty sure Arnold all said that suffering was the one thing that helped the hosts gain sentience last season. And that's through Dolores' experience with William and her loss. And
are you talking about when he shot her?
Maybe.
What are you talking about?
Just through her, because William would come back and torture her every time, because he basically was bitter at her for not being real.
Okay.
And then through Maeve's experience with remembering her daughter, and can you not? Thank you. Through Maeve's experiences, being killed multiple times and starting to remember the revelries.
Man of What?
Yeah, the revelries program, helping them remember what had happened before after they'd been wiped. Maeve gained sentience as well as her code that Ford kind of put in her to gain sentience and get on the train and all that kind of stuff last season. So is Clementine going to be the next one to gain sentience through her suffering that she's been through? She's been through a lot. So and also another question is all these things playing out, these doppelgangers in Shogun World for Westworld. Is there a doppelganger for Dolores and Teddy in Shogun World as well? And are there all of their doppelgangers in every single park? And is this Revelries? Well, we know the Revelries program is playing out in every park because we saw it take place in Rajworld as well. But is this line of sentience and trying to get to the Valley Beyond and all that playing out in these other parks as well? And will we see that in other seasons? Is that possibly something that Ford or Delos is doing purposely to see what might happen in these situations? I don't know. I guess we'll just have to watch and see. So thanks for tuning in and listening to our cockamamie theories. If you have something that you think debunks one of the theories or ideas that we said, let us know in the comments below, and let us know your theories as well, and how things are playing out. Where do you think it's going? Just let us know, and we love to talk about it. We love this show, and we want to see. We love. So we're still figuring things out. It's a love-hate relationship. So. Let us know what you think, and thanks for tuning in. This is Dylan.
I'm Lydia.
And we're here for Broken Pictures. The website is www.broken.pictures, no.com. And we'll see you next time. Peace.